it.
Well,
and
so
some
maybe
of
we
the
have to
things that we found,
look at the
which is
judges,
shocking.
because that's very serious. I think it's a very
Billions
serious
of dollars in
violation.
waste, fraud, and abuse.
I'll ask Elon Musk
I think it's
to
very
say a
important.
few
And that's
words, and
one of the reasons I got elected. I
we'll
said
take
we're
some
gonna do that.
questions. Elon, go ahead.
Nobody had any idea
Sure.
it was that bad, that sick,
So
and that
the,
corrupt. And it seems
yeah,
hard to
at a
believe
high
that
level, you
judges
say what is
want
the
to try and
goal
stop
of
us from
Doge
looking for
or
corruption,
and I think
especially
a
when we found
significant part of this
hundreds
of
of millions
presidency
of
is to
dollars,
restore
much more than that, in
democracy.
just a short period of
This
time.
may seem
We
similar,
wanna weed out
are we in a
the corruption.
democracy? Well, if
And
you
it
don't
seems
have
hard
a
to
feedback
believe
loop,
that a
okay,
judge could say,
we'd have to,
we don't want
if
you to do that. Well,
Sorry.
So maybe we have to look at
tell
the
you,
judges,
gravitas can
because
be
that's
difficult
very
sometimes.
serious. I think it's a very serious violation.
So, if
I'll ask
if there's not a
Elon
good feedback loop
Musk
from the
to
people
say a few words,
to
and
to the government,
we'll take some
and if you
questions.
have
Elon,
rule
go
of
ahead.
the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large, unelected bureaucracy. And this is not to say that there aren't some good, there are good people who, if the bureaucracy is in charge, are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that's responsive to the people. That's the whole point of democracy, in the form of the president, and the Senate and the House. And if you look at this, if you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fully unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want. There are good people and it's not in the federal bureaucracy. It does not match the will of people. So you can't have it just something we've got to fix. And we've also got to address one that is responsive. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. If you look at this, I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking. We've got a lot. We spend a lot of money on defense. In a lot of ways, currently more power. And if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. So it's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens, and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt. I mean, it's
And also,
really
could you mention some of the things that your team has
the interest
found,
payments
some of the
alone
crazy
on national
numbers,
debt
including the
exceed
woman
the Defense
that
Department
walked away with
budget,
about 30 million?
which is shocking.
Right.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that, and there are quite a few people in optional in the bureaucracy who reduce have a federal expense ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000. It's essential managed to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth, and while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing.
And also,
which
could you
gets
mention
take their
some of the
investment
things
advice,
that
perhaps.
your team has found, some
But
of the crazy
there seems to be
numbers,
mysteriously
including the woman
they get
that walked
wealthy.
away
We
with
don't know
about
why.
30 million,
Where does it come from?
et cetera.
Well, we are. And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth. So, we're looking at obviously who say have a ostensibly salary of just a few $100,000. If you look at say Treasury, for example, tens of millions of dollars in net worth, basic controls that should be in place in that position that are in place in any company. What happens, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment. And that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. We've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd a do not pay list, which can take up to a year company for an organization to get on a do not pay list. Payment has payment categorization. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation. None of those can take up to a year to get on the list. And even once on the list is not used. Audits is because the payments. It's mind-blowing. Categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks. We're really just talking about. So you can't adding common sense controls that should be present. Common fields that are also blanks. You don't know why that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That's which can take up to a year. When you understand that for really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, and this we're talking about. So terrorist organizations. Then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't expect to waste. Obviously, known things that do not match. But if people don't receive money, they do a year to get on the list. And the fraudsters complain the loudest, the list is not used the fastest. So it's mind blowing. Then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why we really just everything just adding common sense. They approve all the payments to the treasury that should be present, because if you approve all the payments that haven't, you don't get complaints. So you say, like, well, how could such? But now we're saying that no, actually we are going to complain if money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Then you understand the motivation. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely. They don't on things that matter to the people. But if people don't receive money, these things, it's just common sense. It's not, and the fraudsters complain the loudest. It's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying. Then when you look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest? They approve all the payments. If it is, it's approved. If it's not, because if you approve all the payments, you don't complain. But there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security. And we've got people in there that are 150 years old. In a sensible and frugal manner. Now, do you know then anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. Your tax dollars. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. Matter to the people. So I mean, these things. That's the case where like common sense. It's my guess. It's or draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? It's not. We should think about it. Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it. Just and that they receive it quickly and accurately. And we've got people in there that are 100. Also, another crazy thing. So now, do you know? One of the things is like we're trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy and just make sure that this. Obviously, there need to be a lot of people working in the federal government, but not as many as currently. That's the case. So we're saying, well, okay, let's. If people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, and then a whole bunch of retirement payments, everything. And then we're told this is actually like a great anecdote because we're told the most number of people that can retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual. On paper, it's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. One of the things is then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, there's a limestone mine. Where we store all the retirement paperwork. So we're saying, well, and you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. And then we're told it looks like it's like a time warp. We're told no. And then the speed, then the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move. Determines how many people can retire from the federal. All the federal retirement paperwork is manual. And the elevator breaks down, and then it's manual, and then nobody can retire. Then it goes down a mine. Doesn't that sound crazy? Like, what do you mean a mine? There's like 1,000 people that work. There's a limestone mine. So I think if we take those people and say, like, instead of working in a mine shaft, and you carry manila envelopes to this boxes in a mine shaft of the 50s, because it was practically anything else. And you would add to the goods and services of the United States, and then the speed in a more useful way. Factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move. Anyway, so determines how many people. That's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity? Is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity. Doesn't that sound crazy? And so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. Instead of working in a mine shaft, that's the actual goal. Carrying manila envelopes Everyone's very quiet. Boxes in the line.
Your detractors,
And
Mr.
you
Moss.
would add to
Including
the
a lot of
goods and
Democrats.
services of the United States.
Detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover
Anyway,
of
so
government and
that's
doing
an
it in a
example.
non-transparent
Like at a high
way.
level, if you say like,
What's
how do
your
we increase
response to
prosperity?
that?
Because we get people to do. Well, first of all, to shift from roles that are.
You couldn't ask for a stronger mandate
to high
from the public.
The public voted increase the total output of goods and services, which means
we have a majority of the public voting for President Trump.
That's the actual goal.
Won the House, won the Senate.
Everyone's very quiet.
The people voted for major
Your
government reform.
detractors, Mr. Moss.
There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every
Say
rally.
that
The people
you're
voted for
orchestrating
major
a
government
hostile
reform,
takeover
and that's
of
what people are going to get. They're
doing
going
it
to
in
get
a
what they voted for.
non-transparent way.
And
What's
a
your
lot of times,
response to
that,
that?
people that don't get
Well,
what
first
they
of all,
voted for. But in this presidency, they
you
are
couldn't
going
ask
to
for
get
a
what they
stronger
voted for.
mandate
And that's what democracy is all about.
The public voted.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
There should be no doubt about that. We actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization.
Mr. Musk,
So,
the White House says that you will
and the
identify
kind
and
of things we're
excuse
doing are,
yourself
I
from
think,
any
very
conflicts of
simple
interest
and
that you
basic.
may have.
They're not.
Does that mean that you are
what I
in
mentioned,
effect
for
policing
example, about
yourself?
Treasury,
What
just
are the
making
checks
sure
and balances that are in
that
place to
payments that
ensure
go
that
out,
there's
taxpayer money that
accountability
goes
and
out, is
transparency?
categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations that do not pay list, which are takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not our individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into. Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are currently they are paid, fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying it. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes, at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it
transparency is
comes
what
to
builds
you
trust.
yourself, for
Not simply
instance, you've
somebody
received
asserting
billions of
trust.
dollars
So
in
not
federal
somebody saying they're
contracts.
trustworthy.
When it comes to the
but
Pentagon,
transparency, so you can see everything
which
that's
the
going on.
president I know has directed
And you
you to
can
look
see,
into.
am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not?
Is there any
It's totally
sort
obvious.
of accountability check
And if
and
we
balance
thought
in
that,
place
we
that
would not let him do that
provide any transparency
segment
for the
or
American people?
look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman, he's a successful guy, that's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars. So we've already found, fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud or look in that area. If we thought it's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want. But we're talking about an unsuccessful tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. Also that. And now a judge is an activist, or the judge, groups of people that are getting wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt and abuse, and it is very corrupt. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use. Foolish. In this case, as an example, a man has a contract for 3 months. It's abusive because most of the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years. You know, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. But now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big. And now, but if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months, you know it's a consultant.
Why would they
Here's a
want to do that?
contract
I
for
can't
3
pay them
months,
this. I can't
but it
pay
goes
them
on
the
for
fact
20
that I said
years.
government is corrupt.
And the guy doesn't say that he
It is
got money
very
for
corrupt.
20 years.
It's very,
They don't
very,
say it. They just keep
it's
getting
also
checks month after
foolish.
month.
And you have, as an example,
Various
a man has
things
a
like
contract
that, and
for
even
3
much
months,
worse than that, actually,
and
much worse.
the contract ends,
And I
but
guess
they
you call
keep
that
paying him for the next
incompetence,
20
maybe.
years, you know,
Yeah.
because
It
nobody
could be
ends the
corruption, it
contract.
could
You
be
get a lot of
deals
that.
made on both sides.
A
you know,
contract
where-
that's
I guess the money,
three-month
he
contract.
kicks, I think there's a lot of
Now,
kickback
normally if you're
here.
in a
I see a
sport,
lot of
in all
kickback here.
fairness, it's the size
A
of
tremendous
thing
kickback,
that's
because
so
nobody
big.
could be so stupid
But
to give
if
out
you
some of
have
these
a contract
contracts, so he has to
and
get a
you're
kickback.
in a regular business, you end
So,
the contract in 3 months, you know
that's
it's a
what I got
consultant.
elected
Here's a
for, that
contract
and
for 3 months,
borders and
but it goes on for
military and a
20
lot of
years.
things, but this is a big part of
And the
it.
guy doesn't say that he got
And
money.
I
for 20
hope
years.
that
They
the
don't
court
say it.
system
They just keep getting
is
checks
going to allow us
month
to do
after
what we
month,
have
and
to
yet
do. We got elected
various things
to,
like
among
that,
other
even
things,
much worse
find
than that,
all of
actually,
this
much worse.
fraud, abuse,
And I guess
all
you
of
call that
this
incompetence,
horrible
maybe.
stuff
Yeah.
going on.
It could be
And
corruption.
we've
It could
already
be
found
deals made on both
billions of
sides,
dollars,
you know,
not
where-
like a little bit,
I guess the money,
billions.
he kicks, I think
Many
there's a lot of
billions of
kickback
dollars.
here. I see a lot of kickback.
And when you get down to it, it's going to be
tremendous kickback, 'cause nobody
probably
could be so
close to $1
stupid to
trillion.
give out some of
It
these
could be close to
contracts. So
$1
he has to
trillion
get a
that we're going to find.
So,
That will have
that's
quite
what
an
I
impact
got
on the budget.
elected for,
That
that
and
borders.
you'll go to a
military,
judge,
a lot
where
of
they
things,
handpick
but
a
this is
judge,
big part of it.
he has certain
And
leanings.
I hope
I'm not
that
knocking
the court
anybody
system
for that, but he has
is
certain
gonna allow
leanings.
us to do what
And he
we
wants us to
get
stop
elected
looking.
to, among other things.
How do you stop
find
looking?
all
I mean,
of this
we've already found
fraud,
it.
abuse,
We have a
all
case
of
in New
this-
York
this
where
horrible stuff
a
going on.
hotel has paid
And we've already
$59
found
million,
billions of dollars.
$59 million
Not like
because
a
of,
little bit.
because it's
Billions.
housing
Many
migrants,
billions of dollars.
illegal migrants.
And when you
All
get
illegal,
down
I
to
believe.
it, it's going to be.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a record.
Mr. Mossack, can I ask you a question? You
Well,
said
That
when-
will have
If
quite
I
an
may
impact
sort
on the
of just
budget.
going for the president's comments,
And
at
you'll go to a judge,
at a high
they
level,
handpick a judge.
say, well, what,
He has certain
how,
leanings.
how do you,
I'm not knocking anybody for
what
that,
are
but he
the
has
two
certain
ingredients that are
leanings.
really
And he
necessary
wants
in
us
order
to stop
to
looking.
cut the budget deficit in
How do
half
you
from
stop
2
looking?
trillion to
I mean,
1
we've
trillion?
already found
And it's
it.
really two
We have a
things.
case in New York where
Competence
a hotel
and
is paid
caring.
$59 million.
And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half.
Migrants,
And
illegal migrants.
I fully expect to be scrutinized
illegal, I believe.
and get,
And they were
you know,
being
daily
paid twice the
proctology
normal room
exam,
rate at
basically.
100%
I sort of camp out
So it's a
there.
racket.
Mr. Mossack, can I ask
So
you a question?
it's not like I think I can get away with it.
If I may,
I'll be scrutinized
just,
nonstop.
for the president's comments.
And
at
but with
a-
support of the
at a high
president,
level,
we can cut the budget deficit in half
how
from
exactly- how-
2 trillion to 1. And then
what are the
with
two ingredients that are really
deregulation,
necessary
there's a
in
lot
order
of sort
to
of
cut the
regulations
budget
that
deficit in half,
don't
2 trillion
ultimately
to
serve
1
the public
trillion.
good.
And it's really
We
two
need to
things.
free the builders of America to
Competence
build.
and care.
And if we do that, that means
and
we
caring.
get the economic
budget
growth
deficit
to be
in half.
maybe 3-4% maybe 5%.
And I fully
And
expect
that
to
means
be
if we can get $1 trillion in economic growth,
you know, daily
cut the
proctology
budget
exam,
deficit
basically.
by $1 trillion.
Might as well just camp out there.
Between now and
So
next year,
it's not like
there
I
is
think I
no
can get away with
inflation.
something. I'll be
There's no
scrutinized
inflation on
nonstop.
26. And if the government is not
because
borrowing as
President,
much, it means
we
that
can
interest
cut
costs
the budget
decline.
deficit in half.
So everyone's
From 2 trillion to
mortgage,
1.
their car payment,
And then
their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments that drop.
don't ultimately serve the public good.
That's a fantastic
We
scenario
free the voters of America.
for the average American. And I mean,
If we do that,
imagine
that
like
means
they're going down the
you
grocery
get
aisle, and the
economic
prices
growth, maybe
from 1
3-4%
year to the next
5%.
are the same.
And that means if you get $1 trillion
And their
economic growth, you cut the
their
budget
their
deficit
mortgage, all their
by
debt
$1 trillion.
payments dropped.
Between now
How
and
great is
next
that for
year,
the average American?
There is no inflation. There's no
We had no
inflation.
idea, we had no idea we were
And
going to
if the
find
government
this
is not
much.
borrowing as much.
And it's
it means that
open,
interest
it's
costs
not
decline.
like complicated.
So everyone's-
It's not that
simple stuff.
complicated.
Car payment.
It's
It's a lot of
like-
work.
You
Yeah.
can't believe it. A lot of work, a lot of smart people involved, very, very smart people. But it's, you're talking
That's a
about
fantastic scenario.
anywhere, maybe
the average
500
American.
billion dollars. It's crazy the kind of
Imagine
numbers
like
you're
this, going
talking
down the
about.
grocery aisle.
You know,
the
normally when
prices
you're looking at something,
for
you'll
1
find,
year
you're
to
looking for
next
one
are
out of
the
100.
same.
Here, you're almost
And their-
reversing it.
and their-
You look for one that's
you know, Their
good.
mortgage, all their debt
And you can look at the
dropped.
title, and you say, why
How
are we
great is
doing
that
this?
for the
Why are
average
we doing
American?
that? And the public gets it. You know,
We
the
had
public
no
gets it.
idea-
You've seen the
we had
polls.
no idea we
The
were
public
gonna
is
find
saying,
this
why
much.
are we paying all
And
this
it's
money?
open.
This for years.
It's
like, this has gone on.
It's not
Simple
that
stuff.
President Trump,
Yeah, go ahead. We can't believe it. A lot of work,
Senator
a
Rand
lot
Paul
of smart
today said
people
that DOJ
involved.
cuts
Very,
will
very smart
ultimately
people,
need a
but,
vote in Congress.
it's-
Do you agree with that? Is that the
I
plan?
really don't know. I know
Anyway,
this.
maybe 500
We're finding tremendous fraud
It's crazy
and
the
tremendous
kind of numbers.
abuse.
It's really crazy.
If I need a vote
You know,
of
normally
Congress
when
to
you're
find
looking at
fraud
something,
and
you're
abuse,
looking for
it'd be-
one
it's
out of
fine
100.
with me. I think we'll get the
Here,
vote.
you're almost reversing
Although
it.
there'll be some people that
You look for
wouldn't
one that's good.
And how could a
And
judge
you can
want to
look at
hold
the
us
title,
back from finding
and
all
you
of
say,
this
why are we
fraud
doing this? Why are
and
we
finding
doing
all
that?
of this
And the public gets it.
incompetence?
You know, the public gets it. You've
Why
seen
would
the
that
polls.
happen? Why
The
would
public is
even
saying,
Congress
why are
want
we
to do
paying
that?
all
Now,
this money?
Congress,
This is for
if we do
years.
need a vote, I
This
think
has
we get a
gone
very
on.
easy vote.
Mr. Musk,
Because
I
we
have
have a
a-
track
Senator-
record.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've already found
Senator
billions of
Randolph
dollars
said that
of
Doge cuts will
abuse,
ultimately need a vote in
incompetence, and
Congress.
corruption.
Do you agree with that? Is that
A lot of
the plan?
corruption. I don't know. I know
If a judge
there's,
does block
we're finding
one of your
tremendous
policies,
fraud
part of your agenda,
and
will you
tremendous
abide
abuse.
by that ruling?
If I
Will you
need
abide
to, I
by
always
that?
abide by the
Find
courts, and
fraud
then I'll
and
have to
abuse.
appeal it. But
I-
then,
it's fine
what
with
he's
me. I
done
think
is
we'll
he
get the
slowed down
vote.
the momentum.
Although there'll be some
And it
people
gives
that won't
crooked
vote.
people more
And how
time
could a
to
judge
cover
wanna
up the
hold us
books.
back from finding all of
You
this
know, if a
fraud
person's crooked and they
finding
get
all of
caught,
this,
other
incompetence.
people see that, and all of a sudden
Why
it
would that
becomes
happen? Why
harder
would
later
even
on.
Congress want to do that?
Yeah,
No,
the
Congress-
answer is,
if we do
I
need a
always
vote, I
abide
think
by
we get
the
a very
courts.
easy vote.
Always abide
Because
by
we
it.
have
And
a track
we'll
record
appeal.
now. We've already found.
But appeals take a long
billions of
time, and I would
dollars,
hope that a judge,
abuse,
if you go into a
incompetence,
judge
and
and you show
corruption.
him, here's
A lot of
a
corruption.
corrupt situation, we have a check to be
One of your
sent,
policies, part of
but
your
we found
agenda.
it to
Will
be
you
corrupt.
abide by
You
that
want us to
ruling?
send
Well,
this
I always
corrupt
abide
check
by
to a
it,
person,
and then I'll have to
or do you
appeal.
want us
But
not to
then
give it
what
and give
he's
it back
done
to
is
the
he slowed down
taxpayer?
the momentum.
I would hope a
And
judge
it
would
gives
say,
crooked
don't
people
send it, give
more
it back to
time
the
to
taxpayer.
cover up the books.
If I can add to that,
You know, if a
what we're
person's
finding is
crooked
that
and
a
they
bunch
get
of the fraud is
caught,
not even going to
other people
Americans.
see that, and all
So I
of a
think we can
sudden
all
it
agree
becomes
that if there's
harder
going to be
later
fraud,
on.
it should
So,
at least go to
yeah,
Americans.
the answer is,
But a bunch
I
of the
always
fraud
abide
rings
by
that
the
are operating in
courts.
the United States and
Always
taking
abide by
advantage of the
it.
federal
We'll appeal.
government, especially in the
But
entitlements
appeals take a
programs,
long
are
time,
actually
and I
foreign
would hope
programs.
that a
They're
judge,
operating in other
if you
countries
go into
and
a
actually
judge and you
exporting
show
money
him,
to other
here's
countries.
a corrupt situation,
We should
we
stop
have a
that.
check to be sent,
Mr. Musk,
but we
And
found
this
it
is
to
big
be
nu- big
corrupt.
numbers, talking about
You
100
want
to
us
200
to
billion
send
dollars a
this
year.
corrupt check to a
Serious
person,
money.
or do you want us not to give it and give it back to
An
the
example
taxpayer?
of the
I would
fraud
hope a judge would
that
say,
you have
don't send
cited
it, give it back
was
to the
$50
taxpayer.
million of
If I can add
condoms was sent to Gaza.
What we're finding is actually a
But
bunch of the fraud is
after
not
fact
even
check
going to
this,
Americans. So I think we
apparently
can all
Gaza
agree
in
that if there's
Mozambique,
going to be
and
fraud, it should at
the
least go to
program
Americans.
was to protect them
But
against
a bunch of the fraud
HIV.
rings
So
that
can
are
you
operating
correct
in
the
the United States
statements?
and
It wasn't
taking
sent to
advantage of the
Hamas
federal
actually.
government, especially in the
It was sent to
entitlement
Mozambique,
programs,
which
are
makes
actually
sense why
foreign
condoms
programs.
were
They're
sent
operating
there.
in other
And how
countries
can
and
we
actually
make sure
exporting
that
money
all the
to other
statements that you
countries.
said were
We should
correct,
stop
so
that.
we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, and this is some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected.
Serious.
So
Mr.
nobody's
Musk,
going
is
to bat
it
1,000.
on X
I mean,
that an
any, we will make
example of the
mistakes. We will
fraud,
act
that
quickly
you
to
have
correct any
cited
mistakes.
Was
Um,
$50 million
So,
of condoms was sent
you know,
to
if
Gaza.
the, I'm not
But
sure we should be
after
sending $50
fact
million
check
worth
this,
of condoms to anywhere,
apparently
frankly.
Gaza in
I'm not sure that's
Mozambique,
something
and the
Americans would be
program
really
was
excited about.
taken against
And
HIV.
that is really an
So
enormous
can
number
you
of condoms.
correct
if you
the
think about it.
statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas actually.
But,
It was
you know,
sent to
if it went to
which
Mozambique
makes
instead of
sense
Gaza, I'm
why
like,
condoms
okay,
were
that's
sent
not
there.
as bad,
And how
but
can
still,
we make
you
sure
know,
that
why are
all
we
the
doing that?
statements that you said
Mr.
were,
Musk,
correct?
can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads
that I
as
say
you're
will be incorrect
directing
and
these
should be
cuts? Do
correct.
they have
So,
the,
nobody's gonna
how much
bat 1,000.
input do agency
Any-
heads
you know,
have
we
when
will
you're
make
making these
mistakes.
decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads. And, yeah, there are sort of checks in place, so it's not any press just going in, frankly, things willing. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. Partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that, you know, this is what the president wants to have happen. So, we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, do you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turn-on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention.
We talk almost every day,
and I double check things to make sure this is something. So we will make mistakes. We'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. Then we'll do it.
What's the wording called? USAID?
has been one of your main targets.
I think that there's
Are you
some
concerned at all
worthy
that
things,
some of the
but
cuts or that
overall,
shutting that
say what was
agency
the
altogether
bang for the buck,
may
I would
lead
say
to
it was not very good.
diseases or other
And
bigger
there was
problems starting
far
in other
too much
countries that
of what
then
USAID
come to the United
was
States?
doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand to light of day. And we have,
I
for
just have to
example,
follow up to the Pentagon contracts, if you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense. Is that a conflict of interest?
Are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
So, no, because you don't look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, you know, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX. I would say it's people who's not even the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, in ways that I think were, because every one of them was, do not
The
stand
president
flag.
said the other day
I guess that's
that
the
you
follow-up
might
to the
look at
Pentagon
treasuries.
contracts.
Could you
If you have
explain that a little
received
bit?
billions
What
of
kind of
dollars in
fraud,
contracts
and
from
that
the
question goes to
Pentagon,
both of you.
and the
What kind
president's
of
directing you to look
fraud
into the
are you
Department of
expecting to
Defense.
see
Is that a conflict
right
of
now
interest?
in U.S. treasuries?
At the president's request.
Does
I
that
think you mean
present a
the
conflict
Treasury
of interest for you?
Department as opposed to Treasury No, bills because you don't or look at the individual
You also
contract and
referenced
say,
Treasury
first of all,
bills.
I'm
Yeah,
not
go
the
ahead.
one, you know, well, the filing the contract. As I mentioned earlier, we really need, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting, sorry for this,
contract
where, although my son might enjoy this, but
SpaceX and it wasn't
he's sticking his
by far
fingers
the
in my
best
ears.
value
Because it's been hard to hear sometimes, hey, stop
The
that.
president said the other day that you might look
So,
at treasuries.
no, the
Explain
stuff
that
we're
a
doing
little bit.
with
What
the
kind of
Treasury
fraud-
Department is so
or
basic
That question goes to both of you.
that you can't
What
believe
kind
it doesn't
of
exist
fraud
already.
Are you expecting to see
So-
or do you
so-
see right now in U.S.
So, for
treasuries?
example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what
Yeah.
type
Go
of payment is this? As I mentioned, you can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many businesses bills like blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is like in my ears. So this is why the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an order? A decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? So, and we want to, the stuff we're doing, just in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. So for example, you know, and once in a while, just making sure that when a Treasury has to pause payments, if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. Like you can't just leave the field blank. Currently, if a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, the payment for, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like it's quite hard to get on that. This is why the do not pay list. It means that this is someone that is just like dead people, terrorists, and we want to known fraudsters.
But the person that's in charge, and that are in charge,
I'm sure you would agree.
are allowed
Like,
to
it's
do
quite
the
hard
right
to get on
thing,
that.
namely